What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 3R Podcast. I'm your host, Dave, joined with my co-host, the always talented, always charming Austin St. Pierre. Austin, how you doing today?
I'm doing really good. I like this pattern of taking turns flattering each other at the beginning of every episode.
I'm a fan. I'm a gift giver. I love to give a compliment for sure.
It's going to be our shtick from now on.
There we go. Absolutely. We're going to just ratchet up every level, right? Every episode. Yep. Higher and more intense. So what did you want to talk about today, Austin?
Today, we're going to be branching off from our movie trends a little bit and talking about some of our most anticipated TV shows coming out over the winter season. So it's going to mostly encompass from December of 2024 through February of 2025.
Awesome. That's a great topic, and there's a lot out there right now.
There is, and there's a lot more coming.
Absolutely. So I was going down the list, and it looks like there's some repeats, some new.
Yeah.
Some exciting stuff to look at, right?
Yeah.
So
a good mix of content.
Yeah. So are you a hardcore TV fanatic? Do you watch a lot?
I tend to lean more on the movie side of things, but I do watch a lot of TV. I was looking actually before we hopped on here, and so far this year, I've watched 24 new TV shows, and then there's 3 or 4 more that I'm in progress on that I haven't finished yet.
Wow.
So by the end of the year, I'll have watched about 30 TV shows.
My numbers,
seasons of a TV show.
My numbers are not that high. That's that's true. A little bit tied up, a little bit different aspect or time in my life right now, where I'm trying to just stick to the favorites so I can make sure I get them in right now. So, anything stick out to you so far this year?
So far, a couple of my personal favorites probably be the recently completed Arcane, which I know I've kind of promoted to you and you're planning on starting up soon. That's been one of my personal favorites, as well as the Penguin series that just finished up a few weeks ago. I think that was definitely a pleasant surprise for me. I was hoping it'd be really good based on the Batman movie that we got a couple of years ago, and they definitely lived up to the hype with that one. So I've really enjoyed that one.
So DC Comics on a roll, right?
They are on a roll so far, yes.
That's great. For a long time, that was the running joke. The Marvel comic universe had everything covered. Exactly. Everything was better Marvel, right? So now I've always been a fan of The Flash. So the TV series, The Flash, I've always been a Superman fan. Smallville back in the day was one of my favorites. So I'm not so much into the fan fiction comic type stuff right now, which is really not the norm for me. Typically, that's where my sweet spot is. But I've been checking out a rewatch. Well, not a rewatch, a binge of the critically acclaimed Lost. I've never seen it, so now I've binged through 5 seasons of it to this point. So
watching on 1.25, right?
Yes, sir. 1.25. Thank you, Netflix Mobile. I've been. It's mostly background noise for the most part. It's just something I've got on, kind of getting through it. I do see the appeal. The first couple of seasons were fire. Now the last 3, it felt like was a TV product that they had people invested in, so they felt the need to keep the story going. And not to give too many spoilers, but which I guess if you haven't seen it at this point, it's kind of your fault. But it's that dallies with time travel, and so. It's a little far-fetched sometimes that way. It's hard to keep up with the back and forth. You don't know what era and time you're in. But it's exciting as far as the action. It's kind of neat kind of watching everybody in the group evolve as characters and see how they introduce new characters to the show. Every season it seems like they do some time flashes, and those time flashes let them bring in some new people. So you see a lot of B and C list actors maybe make an appearance or make a couple of season appearance or catch the gratuitous bullet and wind up in a pit somewhere. But it's been a lot of fun. So my other series that I'm on right now is Shrinking with Jason Segel and Harrison Ford. And I'm telling you, if you're looking for something to watch this year, it's on season 2 now. I can't recommend it enough. It's a feel good. It's funny. It's heartwarming. Deals with a little bit of tragedy. It kind of covers a really big gauntlet, and who doesn't love Harrison Ford, So it's got that, if nothing else.
That's an Apple Plus show, isn't it?
That is an Apple Plus show.
Yeah.
And it's honestly probably my second favorite Apple Plus show. So if you're looking for something new to check out, I highly recommend Shrinking. And if you're just looking for a binge, if you want to get the whole story in over the holiday shutdown, if you got a couple days off for the Christmas holiday, Apple TV's got my number one as well, which is Ted Lasso. So the most feel good show I have ever watched. It's a show that can flip my mood. It's heartwarming. It's funny. Jason Sudeikis is endearing. And it's really funny because I almost found most of the characters in most of the movies, like Meet the Millers and things like that. Yeah. I've almost found him kind of obnoxious almost in some of his comedy, but he really hit a home run with Ted Lasso. It's the sweet spot. So no Benedict Cumberbatch ramble today on Jason Sudeikis. Just 2 thumbs up for the for Ted Lasso. So what awesome. About you? You have any recommendations for the holiday season? Maybe somebody wants to catch a binge.
I know one of the shows we're going to be talking about on this episode is Silo. I know they're getting ready to wrap up their current season. We're waiting for it to be all the way out, and we're going to be watching it. And then I think once we do that, because we don't have Apple right now, we're going to get it once it's out. I'll probably be checking out like Shrinking and stuff like that, or at least a little bit more Ted Lasso, because we've started Ted Lasso, we just never stuck with it. So it's definitely one I want to watch at some point. So yeah, it'll definitely be kind of like a Apple Plus trend over the next few months, I think, once we get that back.
Yeah, Lasso is a must watch, man. I don't care who you are. It's my sweet spot. It's my favorite TV show, honestly, of all time. And I just don't see how anyone can't find something relatable or likable about it.
Yeah, I mean, I see lots of clips of it on like YouTube and TikTok and Facebook Reels and stuff, and I always enjoy the clips. So it's definitely one that I want to check out at some point.
Yeah, zingers, one-liners, all the things with a comedy that you would want, and it's got a couple of little love stories in twisted, and it's one of those ones where my wife and I have very conflicting taste in TV shows and genres, honestly, and she really took to this one as well. So highly recommended. So
nice.
That being said, most anticipated movies and shows of the season. That's what we're here to discuss. So
yeah, today's just shows though. We will do movies as well.
Today is just shows. If you're here for the movies, come back. I mean, stay, but come back.
Stay and then come back as well.
Yeah, stay and then come back. Maybe we'll change your mind about TV if you're not a fan.
Yeah.
So checking out this list, it looks like first on the list we've got Yellowstone season 5 part 2 currently in progress. Another one of my dirty little secrets. I'm a Cole Hauser fan. I know that I'm supposed to not necessarily fanboy over a cowboy, but it's quite the show and he's quite the character. So Kelly Riley comes back, of course. Kevin Costner still on as a director. Not to spoil too much of the show if you haven't seen it yet, but you don't see much of Kevin Costner in this season. Have you had a chance to? Yeah.
I haven't caught up on any of season 5 part 2, but we are through season 5 part 1. I think seasons 1. I think we've talked about seasons 1 through 3 of this show are like some of my favorite television ever. I think it's fantastic. I mean, it's not gotten bad since. I think the quality's dropped a little bit, and they're just kind of carrying on the story, but I'm still very invested in it. I still love all the characters and stuff like that. So it's definitely one we're excited to continue watching. We've been DVRing it on YouTube TV. We just haven't had a chance to get into it and watch it yet. So I'm really looking forward to watching part 2 because it's definitely one of my favorite shows.
Yeah. So the thing about it more than anything that I have found is that they've done a really good job making, I'll say romanticizing cowboy culture.
Yeah,
that's
a good way
it's
to put
something
it.
that I'd never really never really hit home for me. I grew up, in the country and outdoors, but Taylor Sheridan has repeatedly found new ways to make me fall in love with that area, with the premise of the show. And not necessarily the culture, the cowboy culture, so to speak, but it's really he's done a great job with that endearing part of making me want to appreciate and respect the culture for what it is.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it. And then even beyond that, the spin-off shows that they have, I know we'll talk about 1923 a little bit later, but 1883 and 1923 really take that and enhance the story for the characters that we love in Yellowstone while adding
Sure.
kind of more background with the heritage of that family and stuff too. So it's just really good all-around world building, I think, when it comes to the world that they've established for the characters, and then, you know, the characters and their personalities and all that kind of stuff too.
Sure, and then the cast and the crew for there's another spinoff show coming based around the Four Sixes Ranch.
Yeah.
From my understanding, which Taylor Sheridan actually owns, which I thought was pretty
Yes.
cool. But they have some great cast in those other two shows as well. Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, I know, make an appearance. So
That's cool. Yeah.
very cool. Yeah. So primary characters actually, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's something I need to backfill on now. So
yeah,
definitely
I really liked 1883, and we'll talk about 1923 in a bit, but I do enjoy that one as well.
very cool. All right, so let's keep this show rolling. We got next on the list, right?
Yeah, next on the list we have Silo Season 2. This is an Apple Plus TV show. I believe Season 1 was a couple of years ago now, and the year that Season 1 came out, it was very high on my top 10 favorite shows of that year list. I thought we talked about the world building with Yellowstone. I think this show has some very, very good world building as well. It kind of goes along with the premise of like a post-apocalypse type thing. And so the world is pretty much uninhabitable. And so everyone lives in these different missile silos all around the world kind of thing. And we follow the story of this one group of people in this one missile silo and kind of all of the science fiction elements around that, as well as kind of the corruption that would inherently take place within the government that's trying to, you know, keep that thing sustained and stuff like that. So I don't really want to spoil too much with it, but kind of the premise of it is revolving around that whole silo and the idea that the world might actually be inhabitable, but the government system that's established in there is trying to keep everything contained within the silo in order to have control more over the population and stuff. So it's kind of it's not necessarily a new premise. There's plenty of other movies and TV shows out there with a similar type story, but I think the way this one's done is really good. It's an adaptation from a book which I haven't read, but it's a really good adaptation from what I've heard. And then just the way that it's executed, it's very, very well produced. The performances are really good throughout. I'm a huge fan of Rebecca Ferguson. She's one of my celeb crushes, and she's incredible in the show. She's really great. She's actually on as a producer as well, so she's just very passionate about the project in general. So she's lead and a producer on the show as well.
Sure, yeah, really quite a cast. It's got the rapper Common,
it's a huge cast.
Tim Robbins, Shane McRae. Yeah, it's quite a list. So I haven't yet got to see this. It is also in my queue, but my queue keeps growing more than I have time for. I've got a lot of work to do over the Christmas shutdown, man. I've got to really step my game up here. It looks like I say, did I see Robert Postlethwaite, or I'm sorry, Billy Postlethwaite as a star as well? So
possibly, I'm not familiar
cast
with
is
him, but
cast is crazy good. It looks like. So it's it's certainly something that if it falls in that realm of shows you like, as far as the sci-fi kind of what's the word I'm looking for, the genre.
Like a sci-fi post-apocalypse
it's really
type
something.
thing.
So
it's a very good mystery too. Like you're just
Postlethwaite
guessing every episode and stuff.
That's the thing that's kept me going about Lost is a similar kind of thing. So Postlethwaite was actually in Chernobyl. So I know that you did you catch Chernobyl?
I love Chernobyl. I've seen it like 3 times.
Yeah. So that's where you would recognize him from.
Yep.
But he is he's definitely talented as well, and he's 7th or 8th on the cast list here. So
Okay.
Doesn't play a significant role obviously in the show compared to Rebecca Ferguson, but and a shout out on that Celebrity Crush, man. That's a good one.
Yes, I'll watch anything with her in it.
So let's go. Let's go Silo, right? it's not one of those ones I think where I want to wait until it's all the way over before I jump into it. It looks really interesting.
Yeah.
Certainly, the appeal and the world building is a cornerstone of a good television show now.
Yeah.
I think. I think Sheridan really set the precedent with that with Yellowstone and was it Mayor of Kingstown and
Yep.
that's the other show he's got, right? So or one of the other shows he's got. So
Yeah, he's got
so
several
definitely
really
one
good movies too.
Yeah, so definitely one to check out for sure. Guy's been all over the map, but yeah. So and how can you go wrong with Tim Robbins?
Right. Classic.
He is a star, a co-star in my all-time favorite movie, Bull Durham. So shout out Timmy Robbins. All right, so the next show on our list,
Got me
Star
excited.
Wars Skeleton Crew.
I love this
Star
one so
Wars
far.
Skeleton Crew.
This
So
one is already active, so it's already out. It started last week as of recording this episode, and we got a 2-episode premiere. And I came in singing pretty high praises to work to you and the guys on this one. It was one that I was cautiously optimistic on when I first started hearing about it, because I liked the premise of it being kind of like a 80s type movie in the vein of something like Stranger Things, Goonies, Treasure Island kind of thing, and it definitely lives up to that. I think I haven't had a chance to watch episode 3. It came out last night. I'm going to watch it sometime the next day or two probably, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it so far. It kind of follows these kids on this adventure. It's very, very family friendly, which I like too. It's like, a cool kind of throwback to the old classic Star Wars a little bit with the
sure, good way
serialized
to
nature
introduce
of
the
it.
family to the Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's really good in the way that it does that. But we basically follow these kids on an adventure that they're swept away on this ship, taken away from their planet, and swept up in this world full of like space pirates and stuff. And they meet this guy who's, at least from what I've gathered so far in the first couple episodes, seems to be a Jedi, or at least have something to do with the Force, or was a Jedi at some point. And so I don't know anything beyond that because we only just got introduced to him, but it is Jude Law playing that primary character there of that one. And so I'm really looking forward to just where this might go in the future, because I think it's like an 8 or 10 episode season, so it'll be a good length of a show. At the same time, one of the cool explanations I heard, I think it was like a TikTok video or something like that, of kind of setting up the show, because I mentioned a little bit of it kind of being in the vein of something like Goonies type thing, but someone described it in a really cool way, and hopefully I don't butcher it in this description based on my memory, but think of it like our world, Earth, exists in the world of Star Wars, and it's about kids who know the events of Star Wars, so like the Jedi, the lore that surrounds the nature of the Jedi and the Sith and stuff like that. Picture them coming across a spaceship, getting on it, and just sweeping them off to, the other end of the galaxy kind of thing, and they get lost. And so they have this somewhat of a knowledge on the world of what Star Wars kind of is, and the Jedi and stuff like that, and the nature of Jedi versus Sith and stuff. But it turns out that their planet is actually like some long lost treasure planet it's like a myth kind of a thing. So it's almost as if fans of Star Wars are in Star Wars and they're trying to get back to their home kind of thing. So I probably butchered it a little bit in the description, but I thought that was a really cool way of looking at it, of like it's these characters that have an idea of what Star Wars is within the world of Star Wars, but they kind of get swept off, and like I said, it does a really good job of balancing kind of the tone and the setting of that 80s type feel to it without making it feel too close to what the 80s were for us, but at the same time interpreting that through the language of what Star Wars is, and just doing something a little bit different, a little more refreshing for the world.
Absolutely. And then, charismatic Jude Law, like, he is the kind of opposite of Benedict Cumberbatch to me in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Not to keep going back to that
onto the
reference,
rant,
but yes, Jude Law, everything I see him in, no matter the genre, he seems to really put it all out there. Charismatic dude, definitely adapts well to different roles. So I look forward to checking this one out. It is also in my queue, and it will get watched over Shutdown. I assure you. It is at the top of my list. I'll get there before I get to anything else.
It's been a great surprise so far. I've really enjoyed it.
So do you think there was enough of a cool down period between the last Star Wars misadventure
The
and
Acolyte one.
yeah,
I think so, because I don't know if this was part of it, but I feel like in a way people's expectations were so low for this one, so I don't know if that's helping the love for this one, because people really
Maybe.
didn't know what to expect on it. But I mean, they got good creative people behind it. I mean, it's still produced by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. So you got the good producers in the background there. They brought back a lot of the directors that they've used so far for The Mandalorian and Ahsoka and stuff like that. So they got a good roster of directors to bring into it too. And then, like you said, you bring in someone like Jude Law as one of the main characters, and you really got a recipe for something good. And one of the showrunners for this one is John Watts, who's behind the more recent Spider-Man trilogy and some other good stuff. So I mean, they got a really good roster of people involved in it to really have a good recipe for success on this one. So
yeah, and debut for Cariana Crater as well for this one, right? She's the primary youth of the story. So looks like it would be a really fun type of, like you said, almost a Goonies type, sort of, we know it might be out there, but we don't know what it is kind of thing, or we have these preconceived notions about what this is, funny enough, one of the things about Star Wars that kept me from it from so long was the perception of the sci-fi nerddom that goes along with it. Didn't discover until much later in my life that I was a Star Wars fan. I didn't watch Star Wars again. In the first episode, I spoke about the experience of watching Star Wars at the Outdoor Amphitheater, but after that, I didn't touch a Star Wars film until I was 30. So
yeah.
And for those of you that know me, know that was a while ago, but it was also still pretty late in life, right? Usually that kind of fandom is built in our youth,
right?
So this is kind of still a new universe to me in a lot of ways. I don't know nearly as much as a lot of the people I encounter who like to talk Star Wars, or I'm still growing in my knowledge, and as such, I've been a fan of like episode 7, 8, and 9 a lot more than probably we'll call them originalists, maybe. Yeah. So the people that saw the original movies think, the talk of it being it's a remake, it's a poorly rewritten version of the first trilogy, and all that. So I'm definitely a little less jaded that way as far as my liking for the Star Wars universe. And I'll be honest, I liked The Acolyte. I thought it was great.
There was aspects of it I liked.
I'm still so new to it that basically I think I still just look for the good in it. And so it's really hard for me to make a valid argument against the arguments that people make against it. I just know I enjoyed it, so.
Right, and that's what matters really at the end of the day, is do you enjoy and appreciate it?
Absolutely. So another good one.
For everyone.
Another good one to put in the queue for the holiday. Long, these long cold weekends. We got some snow on the ground this morning, so
I know it's a winter wonderland.
Not a lot to do outside, right? So next on our list is Squid Game Season 2.
Yeah. Are you into Squid Game? Are you a Squid Game guy?
I was not a Squid Game fan in Season 1, probably to the point that I won't watch it in the second. It just wasn't for me.
Okay.
I could see some appeal. Definitely could. But it's, I think sometimes it's prioritizing a queue at this point. I've got such a backlog. You call it the pile of shame, the list of movies and shows that I have in my queue that I want to get caught up on, that I just haven't had a chance to yet. So, maybe I blocked that one out, subconsciously, just because, I didn't even watch the full season. I watched the first, I think, 2 episodes, and I just kind of made up my mind that it wasn't for me. I didn't want to spend any more time on it. So, What about you? Were you a Squid Gamer?
For me, I do really enjoy the show. Barbie and I actually got into it post hype, so it was tons and tons of hype around this show when it first came out, because everyone just loved the concept of it and stuff like that. It was all new and refreshing for them, and then it was cool for me, for a lot of people, just to be embracing foreign cinema, because that's
Sure.
becoming more and more common these days. So it's cool for something like that to just hit so hard and be so popular. So I really appreciated that, but I did not watch it when it was premiering. I think we ended up because I think it came out during COVID, right around COVID time. It was just one of those shows everyone binged, and we got into it about a year or so after it came out, because we were like, well, we heard good things about it, let's just give it a try, kind of thing. And we really liked it. I did like it a lot. I've seen similar types of stories and stuff before in other foreign films and other films in general, so it wasn't as new for me in the concept of it all. And obviously, as I've mentioned to you, I'm pretty big into foreign cinema, so I've had appreciation for that type of storytelling for a while. So it wasn't as new for me in that sense, but I did really enjoy the show and kind of what it's going for and what it's doing. I'm interested to see what they'll do going forward because of where they left things off in season 1. It's kind of to the point where, like, well, they could go one direction and it could be really cool and really interesting, or they could go another direction and it's like, well, yeah, they kind of peaked in season 1, kind of thing. So
Sure,
I'm
yeah.
interested to see where it goes.
Interesting cast too. Lee Jung Jae played Master Soul in The Acolyte. So
Yeah, one of the best parts of The Acolyte was him, for sure.
yeah, for sure. So there are definitely things that if you're a Lee Jung Jae fan, maybe that's for you. It's an interesting premise. I'll give it that. Just didn't quite hit home for me, and maybe that's something that if I'm jonesing for something different, I'll try it again and see how it looks. But still an interesting. It's like you said, it's an interesting premise. Definitely not hurting in the cast department if you're if you're the cinephile and kind of have the whole world at your hand as far as the things you like and the people you like. The cast is definitely strong. So
and for the listeners
certainly
out there and those wondering, since this is the first to come show that we're talking about on the episode, this one comes out on December 26th, season 2. So it's going to be coming out in the next week or so, probably, from when we get this episode out there.
So far cry from 2021 when season 1 come out, right? But
yeah.
Well,
I don't think they expected this one to be as big as it was. I think
maybe
Netflix
that's
just kind of threw it out there and it hit. So
so that was one of those born in and around COVID kind of people had a lot more time to watch as well. So maybe it found its audience because of that.
Yeah, like Tiger King.
Oh my, yes sir, Joe Exotic. Thank you. Shout out Tiger King. I never thought in my life that on this family-friendly podcast we would talk about Tiger King. So, all you cool cats and kittens that are out there, we don't mean to offend. We're just not there on that one. Wow. Found a way to work that in. That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I never even thought about that on this show. All right. So next, another repeating show, Severance, comes out January 17th. Season 2.
I don't have too much to say on this one because I've actually only seen the first episode of it. This is one that Barbie watched without me. She got into it and binged through it. She loved it. It's probably one of her favorite current shows. And then we got rid of Apple TV for a while, so I didn't have a chance to keep watching it. So I've only seen the first episode so far, but once we get it back, like I said, to watch Silo and then for Shrinking and Ted Lasso and stuff, it's one of the ones I need to get back to. So it's definitely one that I've heard is one of the best shows that's currently on right now. I love the concept of it, and I really enjoyed the first episode. Just the whole concept behind it is really interesting, between separating your consciousness for your personal life and your work life kind of thing. So I just think it's a really cool premise. So I'm interested to go and still finish season 1. That's I wanted to at least mention it because I know it's a very popular show, but I actually don't know too much on the show since I've only seen that first episode so far.
Yeah. So cast is interesting. Adam Scott, not somebody I'm a huge fan of, but my mind could be changed.
Yeah.
Just shouting that out there in case Benedict Cumberbatch is listening. And Zach Cherry. I don't know how much you've seen Zach Cherry around, but interesting character as a person. So I'm sure it's probably great. I'll put it on the list. Another one I'll try to at least give it an episode or two and see how it looks.
Yeah. Like I said,
but
yeah, I
I
really
missed.
enjoyed the first episode. I definitely want to get into it more.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll definitely take a look at that one. Um, so
And that'll be
next on
coming
the
out January 17th for those wondering.
gotcha. Yeah, yeah. So next on the list, Solo Leveling season 2.
Yeah, we're jumping into some anime now.
Yeah. So about that, I am not an anime guy, so this is all on you. Not
I'm
that
hoping we
there's
have some
anything
anime fans
wrong
out
with
there.
anime. Not that there's anything wrong with anime.
Yeah, so Solo Leveling comes out in January. They're kind of doing it in a movie form type thing. So they're releasing a movie that's kind of a recap of the final episodes of season 1, and then it's going to be the first couple episodes in season 2 kind of cut into a movie, and then season 2 will continue from that. So Solo Leveling was one of my favorite animes and even one of my favorite shows from this past year. It was just
Wow.
a really interesting premise in there's this world that these dimensional portals started opening up and these monsters started coming out. And around the same time these portals started opening up and monsters coming out, people started what they called awakening as these hunters, basically. And they would be sent into these portals to fight these monsters or sent to where the monsters come out to fight them. And when you awaken as this hunter, you're basically set at this certain class level that you're capable of fighting and defending and stuff like that, like this ability. And once you're at that awakening point, you don't change. You can't. So they rate it in a class system. So you're either like a D tier, E tier, C tier, B, A, or S tier kind of thing. And whatever one you awaken as, that's what level you are. And so we follow the main character is this guy who's the the lowest ranked hunter of pretty much anyone in the world, but he does it because he needs the money, because you make decent money doing it. And so he
Fair
basically goes along and just kind of plays a small support role for the people that are going in these groups. And so it's not really a spoiler to say because it happens in the first episode or two, but he goes into this one area and it turns out to be a much more difficult battle than they anticipated it to be. And he ends up getting killed while they were in there. But right before he dies, he's literally like fractions of a second from death. Everything just kind of freezes and he steps out of like time tape, basically. And he's given this option to either die in like 0.1 seconds by this entity that he kind of like comes into his consciousness, or reawaken. And so he chooses to reawaken, and so it basically resurrects him. And now he basically is put into where life is like a video game for him. He can level himself up. And so he started as this lowest ranked hunter, and now he is given all of these side quests and missions and enemies to go fight by this entity that is in his consciousness, and he can go in and fight them and level himself up. So it's why it's called solo leveling, because it's just him, and he just goes in and levels up himself and just becomes this overpowered, incredibly strong guy. And so it's just following him along on that journey as he's just leveling himself up and stuff. So it had fantastic action throughout. It was a really cool, really interesting premise of basically the world becomes a video game for this kind of guy. Like nobody else knows what's going on. All they know is all of a sudden he's just becoming more and more powerful throughout. So it's a really cool premise and a really good story. It's very short. It was only like one season, 12 episodes, but they packed a lot into it and did a really good job with it. So I'm really excited for what season 2 is going to hold for that one.
That's an interesting premise.
Yeah.
I don't doubt, based on your description, that it would be a good watch. So, I don't know where else to put that in my pile of shame at this point, but maybe it's something I can grab a hold of. I'm not opposed to the idea of indulging in some anime at some point. I haven't found
that's a good one too, because like I said, it's short. It's not hard to get into.
Haven't found my footing with the anime stuff just yet. Although I am optimistic that this anime-inspired Lord of the Rings will certainly
Yes.
get me going. Going to try to make it out for that this weekend. So, yeah. So next. Dr. Stone, Science Future.
This is another anime. I had to throw this one on here. So this one,
you nerd.
yeah, I know. There's another one coming out in January. You can blame. Well, I've been getting into anime slowly for the past 5 or 10 years. But you can blame Nate for me going all in on it.
Well, shout out Nate. Shout out Nate. It's always nice to
Thank
find
Nate for
something
that.
new.
Yeah,
Something new that you didn't like before, or you didn't consider before, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, like I enjoyed it enough, but now it's one of my favorite formats to explore, just because it's so unique and interesting in the way they tell stories and the and
Sure,
that culture,
that's
the
kind of what
Japanese
happened to me with
animation.
the Star Wars universe. You know, it was like
Yeah.
never considered the idea that I might actually like it.
Yeah.
You know, one day
Yeah. So
just decided
so-
to give it a shot.
Yeah, so Doctor Stone is probably one of my favorite animes right now. This is going to be the final season of it, and for you, since you're unfamiliar with it, the premise of this one, you follow this young man. He's in high school named Senku, and he's this brilliant scientist. But he's in high school, and so one day he's just living his life. You know, they're at school kind of thing, and there's this flash of light, and everyone in the world turns to stone. The whole world turns to stone. Like, you know, nature and all that kind of stuff keeps going, and it takes over the world. So basically, like 3,000 years go by, and somehow he breaks out of his stone after like 3,000 years, and he's able to find a way to start getting his friends and a couple other people out of it, and they basically have to rebuild society again and start things over, because it's been, you know, 3,000 years and nature has taken over the world, kind of thing. So it follows them on their journey as they're trying to rebuild the world. One of the coolest aspects of the show for me is, like I said, he's a brilliant scientist, and everything they do scientifically in the show is real science. Like, they did the research behind it for how they do inventions. Like, they'll invent gunpowder, and they'll start building machinery and all that kind of stuff, and all of the science and engineering that goes into it is real, true science, and they'll like emphasize that in the show. Like, sometimes they'll do something crazy, like I said, with like gunpowder and stuff like that, and they'll like do a fourth wall break cutaway and be like, just so you know, this is real, don't do it at home, kind of thing. So
Right.
it's just really
Okay.
cool to see the show kind of like every season builds on it, because they're trying to build and establish a society more and more throughout each
Sure.
one. So they've pretty much, you know, gotten back to not necessarily normal, but the new normal at this point. So I'm really interested to see how they're going to wrap things up as we go into the final season on this one.
Gotcha. So that comes out in January.
Yeah, it comes out in January. I'm not sure the exact date, but I know that's in January.
Okay. So the next show that we're going to put on the list, My Happy Marriage season 2. So first off, shout out my daughter Chloe. She loves, or Mackenzie, sorry. She likes My Happy Marriage a
That's
lot.
good.
So
Has she told you much about it? Do you know much about it?
she
from
hasn't
here?
told me a lot about it.
Okay.
But she was adamant that it was fantastic. So
Yeah, it was one of my
So-
favorite shows. I think 2 years ago was when season 1 came out. It's another short one. It's only like 12 episodes, but it's just a very powerful, very, very cool story. I tell people in a few small elements, it's kind of like Cinderella in the setup of, you follow this girl who kind of like lives a life kind of like Cinderella does, where she has this, you know, evil stepsister and stepmother kind of thing who are always picking on her, down on her kind of thing. But that's kind of where the similarities end at the same time. But it's a good jumping off point, I think, for people who are unfamiliar with it. And you follow her through this arranged marriage that she set up with a military general. And so they're set up in this arranged marriage, but then not long into this arranged marriage, they actually start, you know, caring for each other. So it just kind of follows the journey of their relationship as they have been set up in an arranged marriage, but they actually start having feelings for each other and stuff like that. There's an element of like a fantasy type world to it too, with like a magic system and stuff like that, which is cool. So it's a really cool balance of like drama with some romance in there, some action fantasy type thing too. I'm not traditionally like a romantic drama kind of guy, but I'd heard really good things about it, so I checked out season 1. I watched all of season 1 in like a day or two. It was so good.
Wow.
So I'm really excited for what season 2 can be.
yeah, that's one. You know, the kids have kind of gone into a little foray into anime, but I haven't gotten bitten by the bug yet. So this might actually be the best place for me to start, knowing that there's a new season coming out. It'll give me something to talk to my kids
Yeah.
about. So
Yeah. So that one's on Netflix, for those wondering. That's coming out in January on Netflix.
very good. So next on the list, Invincible season 3.
Back to American television.
Thank goodness. I mean, did I say that came out? I didn't mean that. I didn't mean it. I did not mean it.
Yeah,
It
so
just came out.
You haven't jumped on the Invincible train yet, have you?
I have not.
No.
So
I think whenever you do, you're gonna like it. It's really good.
yeah, it's definitely something in my wheelhouse. You know, kind of comic based story that you know has an interesting cast for
really good cast.
an animated film or animated show. So Stephen Yeun from the zombie show Walking Dead.
Yep.
And J.K. Simmons, who from what do we call it? Car insurance fame.
Yeah.
And Sandra Oh.
Yeah.
So really interesting cast here, and it's Kirkman created. So
Yep. Same
and not
creator
a-
as Walking Dead.
not a surprise there. I actually got into the Kirkman effect pretty heavily for a while. Collected several issues of the Outcast comic, so he's definitely somebody who I have a strong draw toward as far as creators. So I look forward to getting in on this train. This is definitely one of my. If I were to put a list together and prioritize it, this one is up there pretty high.
Yeah, it's very good. It takes a lot of what you love about like Marvel and DC and just turns it on its head and plays with those expectations and those tropes really well.
Yeah, it's a premise based on what I've read and seen about it that sort of is like the antithesis of everything that we know, right? Like it's a
Right. It takes every expectation you would have and twists it.
It's probably like a more, not that you can be super realistic in a comic realm, but probably what you would more likely encounter in the real world as opposed to these universes that good versus evil type thing.
Yeah,
right?
there's a lot more gray with the characters and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
I think when you as you progress in your life, you start to realize that there is a lot more gray. So definitely one I'm excited about, just because, like I said, I'm a big Kirkman fan, and it looks really cool. I don't necessarily know that I'll be reading any compendiums anytime soon.
Yeah,
but
you
I'm
should
definitely
have.
excited to give this one a go for sure.
Yeah. I've
Definitely.
enjoyed the show thoroughly so far, and I've been reading the comic now too, and the comic's very good as well.
Yeah, so looking forward to that one. I think that one will be. I think that'll be a good one to kind of catch up on and get into as it progresses this season. So looking forward to that as well.
Season 3 on February 6th.
February 6th. So I've got time
Prime
for
Video.
this one.
Yeah, you got time.
I've got time for this one. So now, here's one that was a sleeper on me, and I got really excited when I saw this on the list. Reacher, Season 3, comes out February 20th on Prime.
Yes, I love Reacher. That's one of my favorite currently airing TV shows, I think.
It is mine as well.
Yeah, the character of Reacher is fantastic. I think, off the top of my head, I'm forgetting who's playing him, but I
Alan
know him.
Richardson.
Alan Richardson, yeah. I knew it was an
Yes.
Alan something.
Yes.
He's great. I think he's perfect as the character. I enjoyed the
He
Tom
is.
Cruise movies enough, but he's just the embodiment of the character, I think. And
Yeah,
that's coming
so-
from someone who wasn't a book fan. I've read the first book now since because I really enjoy the show, so I wanted to start reading the books. So I've read The Killing Floor, which is what season 1
Right.
was based off of, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I definitely want to keep reading the books, but I absolutely love the show. I think the show's really great.
So the books are fantastic, and what Richardson does is he gives you an embodiment of what Reacher was intended to look like.
Yep.
I enjoyed the Reacher movie with Tom Cruise. I thought I thought he was fantastic as a character. I thought he played the role really well.
Right.
But when you draw somebody in that is clearly a box office grab, there are, I'm sure, thousands upon thousands of movie fans that go to every Tom Cruise movie because you can't not love Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Richardson, though, he's the big, strong embodiment of exactly who you would expect from Reacher. And that first scene in Reacher, from the beginning to the end of this of the first season and the second season as well, I have been completely enamored with him as a character. I think he's perfect for the role. and I think he plays it really well too.
Yeah, that's a perfect balance of like the type of attitude that he has, the personality that he has, the way that he carries himself, both physically and within that kind of ego that his character has at the same time. I think he's such an interesting character. I'm really excited for season 3, as you know, that's what we're talking about here, because I love season 1. I think season 1's like a perfect season, probably, especially for his character.
Yeah, I agree.
loved season 2 as well. I'm really excited for season 3 because so far, season 1 and 2, he's had the edge physically and ability wise against the antagonists of it. And I don't know if you've seen the trailer yet for season 3. They just released it a few days ago. But like the main guy he's up against is double his size, like legitimately double his size. It's going to be interesting.
How do you find a human that large?
I know. I don't know.
Because Alan Richardson is massive.
Yeah, he's over 6 feet, and he's like over 200 pounds. Like,
yeah, he is an enormous dude. Like,
yeah,
the idea that you could find somebody who could dwarf him in size, you know, it's kind of a. Help me out. The guy from Green Mile. I had him on the.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
he would have to be somebody built like that, and I can't imagine. I just can't imagine it, to be honest. I mean, it just blows my mind, the idea. And Richardson, for what it's worth too, in the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Have you seen that yet?
I haven't yet. I want to.
So he and Henry Cavill together, man, are just, they were great. It was such a fun watch. It only has a 6.8 rating, which really surprised me.
Rated, but I heard it was a fun movie. Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was well put together. I thought the action sequences were fantastic. I thought Richardson and Henry Cavill had really good chemistry together.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Because usually you don't see two A-type, you know, male dominant type dudes in the same film unless it's like an army show, which this sort of is, but
it kind of is, but at the same time,
yeah. So I thoroughly enjoy him. Enjoyed the premise of the first 2 seasons. Love the books. Was really, really excited to see them find somebody who actually embodied the descriptive character of Reacher.
Yeah.
So great show.
You get a little bit of a different perspective when you're reading the book. Like, the show does a really good job of showing you what he's thinking without like him narrating, but when you actually get like the narrations of like his internal dialogue and monologue throughout the books, it's like, this guy's perfect. Like Alan Richardson's perfect for him. Like, because you can see that in the way he plays the character without them having to lean on narrating of what he's thinking, that kind of thing. You see that thought process in the way he plays the character.
Yeah, and his character, man, it's his whole demeanor, right? Like, he just, when he furrows his brow and he kind of turns his head slow, or he makes eye contact with an antagonist or whatever.
Yeah, those little micro expressions.
Yes, and it's like, it's very much like, what was the movie that Emilia Clarke played in, where she took care of the handicapped man, and then he.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Same kind of premise where she has probably the most expressive eyebrows in Hollywood, right? But I felt like that was like a good casting, because there was a lack of physical interaction, because the main character was in a wheelchair, and so you rely a lot more on facial expressions to kind of cue you as to what the general mood of the show is, right? So I think that Reacher and Richardson go they're synonymous for sure. Hand in hand, I couldn't imagine anybody else being Reacher after this.
Nobody else can play Reacher after this.
Yeah, so
that's one of my most anticipated for next year, and it makes it even sweeter that it comes out in February. That one's
February 20th on Prime. Yep. Yes. Yep. So listen, the Prime thing. No paid advertisements here, but they've got some bangers.
They do.
So, and some free movies too, which is nice.
I can't believe we're getting Reacher and Invincible season 3 in like the same month. Like, those are like 2 of their top tier shows, and we're getting both of them together.
February is going to be good, sir.
Yeah.
So next, and finally, S2.
Yes. 1923 Season 2 coming February 23rd.
19. Oh, sorry. Let me roll that back.
You're good.
S2. I was like, why S2? What is S2? Wee. The coffee evidently just completely wore off. Sorry. All right. So finally, 1923 season 2. Going back to the Taylor Sheridan universe, as it were. TSU for 1923. So have you seen this show?
I have. We watched season 1. I don't remember if we watched it as it was coming out. I think we did, or it was like not long after, if that was the case. So we really enjoyed it. I think I still prefer the original Yellowstone, and I might even like 83 a little bit more. I think there's a few storytelling elements that they dragged out a little bit in the 1923 show, but it's another one where like they still nail the world building. I'm still very invested in each of the characters, and I'm really curious to see where they go in season 2. Season 1 had a massive cliffhanger, so I definitely want to know what's going to happen next on this one. So probably my least favorite of the Yellowstone shows, but still one that I do really enjoy.
So yeah, back to the whole. How can you not love Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren, right? I mean,
they definitely make that show for sure.
Yeah. You can't even say All American, but great cast or great stars for that role, right? And then I tell you what, somebody that's been on a heater, Brandon Sklenar. Gee whiz, this guy's fantastic. He was in It Ends With Us as well. Mm-hmm. So he plays the original love interest of Mrs. Ryan.
Right?
Yeah, what's that?
Blake Lively's character.
Yeah, Blake Lively's character. Yeah, I was going to say Mrs. Ryan Reynolds. So he plays the primary love interests in the older version of himself. So the story is told back and forth between her youth and the first person she falls in love with, which is a homeless character who is later portrayed as an adult by Brandon Sklenar. So, guy's on a heater. He's on the rise. He's definitely somebody to watch. He's a great actor as well. I've only seen 1923 and now It Ends With Us with him in it. Yep. But a lot of talent, a lot of potential. Fun character in 1923. He's he is the textbook protagonist type, right?
Yeah. So after Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren, he's definitely my favorite character. I think Helen Mirren and Harrison Ford just inherently because of who they are, and I think the experience that they bring, in their acting careers to the roles.
Yeah. Well,
obviously they're top tier, but he's definitely my favorite character after that.
Yeah, and you're not. I don't think that you're going to find a show where you put somebody like Harrison Ford in it and then find another performance within that same show where it's the same thing with Shrinking. I'm a huge Shrinking fan. It's right up there at the top for me. And Harrison Ford he doesn't play a tertiary character, but he's kind of a secondary star. Show's built around Jason Segel's character, but so all of his interactions with Jason Segel are my favorite parts of the show. He's kind of grumbly and brooding in the show, so he's like he's just a great character. So, and this role and this time in the storyline, the 1923 show, is the perfect placement for somebody like Harrison Ford. Right? He's this weathered old man, tough cowboy, kind of on the frontier, developing his land and doing his business and kicking butt. So. Definitely what I would expect from Harrison Ford. Great character, great show, great setting.
Yes, I like
the trademark of a Taylor Sheridan film at this point, I think, is the setting. Going back to the Mayor of Kingstown, even you just feel like the environment is what it should be.
Yeah.
So
season 2. I don't know if we mentioned yet. It comes out February 23rd, so that'll be
yes, sir.
Right
February
at the end
23rd.
of our winter season. There, that'll be
and that's that'll be a good one. A good one to pick up, and maybe get you through the rest of the cold winter, right?
Yeah, as we get ready for some springtime.
Absolutely. So, do you have a favorite in this list? Do you have one particular thing that you're looking forward to more than any other?
Anime-wise, I would say probably Solo Leveling Season 2. That's probably my most anticipated anime for the next
Sure.
few months. Show-wise, it's really close between Invincible and Reacher. Probably
Okay.
those are pretty synonymous for me as some of my favorite currently airing TV shows.
Sure, sure. Now I'm all in on Reacher for sure, and Star Wars Skeleton Crew. I'm stuck, man. I'm in the Star Wars universe for life at this point. So
Yep.
every time something comes out with that, I'm on it. So
Yep.
those are definitely my two hot spots, and much for similar reasons. Everything Star Wars comes out hot for me. I still love everything about it. I still look forward to everything new that comes out, even when it's not necessarily so great. And probably honorable mention 1923 for me. It looks really cool. Look forward to seeing the evolution of the characters and the storyline there. So
Cool. Well,
Yeah,
in an effort to keep us under 1 hour, we'll kind of wrap things up. We have been getting ourselves out there more over the past week or so. Not only do we have the Facebook page and the Spotify now, we're starting to get our videos up on YouTube, so we'll link to our YouTube channel on the Facebook page and then here in the description for this podcast. So if you want to see the video element of this and you haven't been listening on Spotify so far, we'll be on YouTube video-wise so you can see our beautiful faces.
yes, and as soon as this RSS feed gets itself worked out, we'll be on the other platforms as well.
Google and Apple and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, you can come look for us everywhere. Before too long, everywhere you look, you'll see our faces.
Yeah. Just like Robert Downey Jr.
That's it. We'll be everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah.
Iron Manning it
So-
up.
Yeah, so we definitely want to know, as the listeners are probably hearing our stuff that we're most excited for, we definitely want to know what shows you guys are most excited for in December through February there. So let us know. Let us know in the comments, and then we'll try to put the question out there as well on Spotify and stuff, so you can let us know what you're most looking forward to, so we can hear your picks as well.
Absolutely. And always, as always, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bells, hit the buzzers,
Share
follow
us.
us up, and
Spread the word.
share us. Yes, share us. We are a gift. We are absolutely a
The
gift.
giving
Be sure to
season.
share
Give
us.
give us to somebody.
Yeah. We're and you know what? Sometimes in life, the best gifts are free.
Yeah, we are free.
We are free. No paywalls for us. No paywalls and no judgment. Family friendly. I don't know how else you could. How could you not love us at this
Whole
point?
package.
You must. Yeah, you must have us all. So that's a wrap for me, man. I've had a good time today discussing this upcoming season. Realize how overwhelmed I am with what's coming, with what's
And we
already
haven't
in my
even talked
queue.
about the movies yet.
Oh no. Yeah, but those
so
I can carve out in a couple hour increments, right?
Yeah,
like that's
yeah.
one and done. This
Yeah,
repeated
shows are more of a
episode stuff.
commitment. Yeah.
Yeah, you get married to a show. You know what I mean? You date a movie, but you get married to a show. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
with that, guys, I'll say stay classy.
Yeah, we'll see you in the next one.
We'll see you.